Want to give a big shout out to Will Fix YouTube channel and Crypto Insight UK and Will there. This is a great conversation with the one and only Quincy Jones, who was at XRP Las Vegas 2023. Such a brilliant mind. I want you to listen to these excerpts where he's talking about when asked about XRP price prediction or adoption levels, and just listen to these insights. He's such a brilliant young man. Shout out to you, Quincy, and Will Fix on YouTube. So take a listen here.
So the biggest thing with regulations is, what are the securities laws going to be in regards to what crypto is classified as, and what different cryptos can be classified as securities and as equities? Because this is important, because it's not that people are so worried about these cryptos being just securities. It's how do you manage like regular traditional securities on crypto networks? And the big example I always get is, like, let's say you had a Tesla stock. Let's say I bought a Tesla stock. Cool. Well, it's a decentralized network. So when I buy that Tesla stock, I now have the stock. Now, in a traditional sense, I would need a license to sell that, or I would need to go through a broker to sell that. But if it's on a decentralized network, I didn't need a broker to buy it, and I don't need a broker to sell it. So and that's the thing, that's not even the worst part. What happens if I sell that to somebody in Brazil and they're not even in the country, and I sold it to them, no broker, you see what I mean? Like, what's the securities laws on something like that? You may see a bunch of little guidelines for how businesses have to operate as opposed to what can be done on these networks as a whole. Because yeah, that's gonna be a huge thing. Like, what's gonna keep people from, and it's not even a bad thing. It's just that these technologies have come into a time in which the laws have not even accommodated or haven't even anticipated something like this even happening. Like the laws for a lot of these securities and a lot of these financial instruments were all built under the guise of centralization and centralized authority to get some sort of a consensus over what's happening and to actually make those transactions. Now that you don't need that central authority anymore, it totally flips the game on its head in regards to licensing, into certifications, into how would you operate normally, and how would you operate into this new ecosystem without these central parties? And that's the thing, you need clarity on that before you start seeing the absolute massive, insane adoption that we're going to end up seeing. And the only reason I say that is we'd be seeing it now if that was already the case, but it's not. So the funny thing is, it's almost like it's building up and building up and building up. A lot more people know about crypto now than they did in 2017, and a lot more people knew about it in 2017 than they do in 2014. So it's building up and building up and building up. But a lot of people haven't really gotten off to the races yet, because there's no clarity yet, and there's no liquidity based off going from the banking system back into crypto natively. So those are the two things that are going to have to happen before you start seeing just insane adoption like no other place. How about that? And I mean for the race car driver, not for the XRP, but you really want to look at it as, where do you see it in the future in regards to where it would look at it at full scale volume? And that's sort of the thing that people need to get. And that's sort of what I try to sort of instill in people, especially the hodlers. I'm like, look, you're not really investing in short-term volatility unless you're like a trader. You're investing in the long-term viability of these networks. So one thing that you really want to look at is, well, what does this network look like when it reaches its not quite its peak, let's say maximum utility. Let's say once it's reached a point where its maximum utility is just a runaway effect. Like, it's just going to keep on going because so let's look at that. The best way to look at that with XRP is, well, XRP, if you look at the entire liquidity in the market now, I think it's only like $50-60 billion worth of value in the XRP ecosystem. And I hate sort of comparing it to this. The biggest thing that you really want to look at is, well, what's everything that you plan on seeing on XRP? Add up all those assets together, whether it's currencies, bonds, stocks, blah, 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 whatever. And you don't want to look at the actual value. You want to look at the overall volume happening on those networks, and you want to sort of anticipate what the future volume may be. You got to remember, the volume on these networks now are high, but they'll be higher on XRP because they'll be faster, more efficient, they'll be cheaper. You see what I mean? You'll end up getting a exponential effect of being able to do more transactions for cheaper on the network because it's able to do it more efficiently than it was able to do it before. So that's sort of the way you really want to look at it. And I wouldn't even really look at it in price. I would look at it more in terms of market cap, because it's one of those things where it's liquidity in the market, and market cap is just going to be determined based off of how much liquidity is in the market, based off the assets on it, based off the volume, based off of all of that. And it's one of those things where all of these ecosystems, not even just XRP, but all of these ecosystems are going to have comparable market caps to a lot of the financial ecosystems we see now, mostly because those old ecosystems are going to reside on these new public chains. I would say is these networks are going to be multi-trillion-dollar market cap ecosystems. Now, who's going to do what, and who's going to be the biggest, and who's going to be doing this for who, is going to be all determined. But the reason this is the case is all the financial markets are all multi-trillion-dollar market caps. The only difference is those markets are going to reside on these public chains. See what I mean?
Sure.
So that's the best way to look at it. And that's the thing. You can come up with your own price prediction there. There's a good range in there for people to sort of go. But my big thing is you're looking for that long-term viability, that long-term adoption. It's going to be somewhere in there. Don't know where it is, somewhere in there. And that's the thing, like that's why I try to equate it to the race car driver. It's like, look, I don't know when he's going to place, but I think he'll be in like the top 3. And not that XRP would be in the top 3. I just think that XRP would be able to reach a side to where the liquidity would be needed to maintain the financial markets as they are today, on top of being able to adapt them towards future use, which means they'll be operating faster, cheaper, more efficiently, all of that on top of being able to do what they already do.